Welcome to the Decode Podcast with Elias Malfovan, Daniel Stanfill, and Sean Kincaid.
Welcome to another episode of the Decode Podcast. We are joined by a close friend and a good colleague, Matt Argyris with Europlacer. And we've all had the fortune of getting to know Matt quite a bit over this last couple of years, and I know these other two cats depend on him a lot for their operations. Matt is the senior application engineer at Europlacer, and he is our resident screen printer expert. So welcome on, Matt. How's it going tonight?
Good. Thank you guys for having me.
This is definitely our first attempt. We've never obviously attempted to had you on before and had certain Californian residents fail to show up and deliver. So I expect that this will go smashing as our first attempts usually do.
Yeah, I think we've had a couple times with it, and we will absolutely get it this time. Everyone's here and we can hear and see each other. So I think we're good to go.
All right, Matt. So you work in kind of a niche role within a niche industry. How does a guy find his way into becoming a product specialist within PCBA, but specifically at the screen printer? Tell us a little bit about that journey. It's got to be a straight line, right? You a couple years old, you told your dad you wanted to be a screen print master when you grew up. Do I get that right?
Yeah, you're spot on. And
okay,
good assessment. And I'll fill in a couple of the gaps there that you missed. But yeah, I've always had a passion for electronics and tinkering with stuff and understanding how things work, really. So maybe 10 years ago, I was fortunate enough to have a friend help get me a job doing an operator at a local company in Michigan. And we assembled circuit boards and ran the lines, some old screen printers, and placement machines. And I fell in love with it there, really. Didn't know anything about the process or anything other than really how to push a button and kind of from there. But as I grew in my knowledge, I was able to join a different company and had some really, really good mentors there and really started to learn more and had people train and teach me about it. And that's really where things started to take off. And I would say once I not exhausted my knowledge at that place, but once I had a thirst maybe that was larger, I reached out to Europlacer and to Speedprint at the time and to see if they had any positions available. And they did with the printers. And it happened to be in Michigan locally. So that's kind of when my journey on this side of things started. And again, I was always open and willing to learn and had the opportunity to train and learn from some of the best minds in the industry from all over Europe and, of course, in the US and elsewhere. Yeah. And now I'm at a point where I'm always learning, but I'm able to share some of that knowledge, too, with other people. So it's come full circle in a ways. I see many of the operators that started out like I did and come here and think back on that career path a little bit too. So certainly not like every industry or other jobs that you get in, but yeah, if you want to come up in this industry or learn things or excel at it, you definitely can in a short time.
So in that decade, what have you seen in terms of screen printer technology, right? Like we think about a screen printer and it's like in its purest form, it's a relatively simple function that's being performed. That being said, there's a few different inputs and variables and things like that. So what have you seen change on the screen printing platform, over the last decade, let's say?
Yeah, you are right in the sense that it is a simple platform in some ways. In some formats, you have to convey in a board and align 2 points to it and then, screen paste down. But I think how you get there is very, very different. And that certainly evolved over the years. And so I can remember when I first started out, the process knowledge wasn't there, of course. And there were just a few settings that we played with and the rest was kind of an unknown quantity, what it did, or why we would change it, or what would happen if we changed it. So there certainly wasn't the inspection capabilities that I recall every customer has now. And so the other thing that we see is the operation of the machine, how we get there, how do we program, and how you can train people on that. So whether you've had an operator that's been at your company for just a couple of years, or someone that's been there 2 weeks, and ensuring that that person can get the same product out, and the same quality without having to have that sort of skill set maybe. So I think that that's the sort of ease that you see now. And of course, the automation and things, everything's going to more automated changeover with Hermes and CFX, and the ability to forecast what boards are coming down. And of course, some equipment, depending on how it's spec'd, can change over paste and change over stencils, tooling. So there's quite a few things where the operator in some cases, is not needed for entire shifts. So
Wow.
it's, yeah, very, very, yeah, interesting to see. And it frees up their time to do more skilled work than loading stencils and putting paste down.
Matt, have you ever been tempted to join the dark side and get involved on the placement end of things at Europlacer? You're just like so locked in to helping the printer side evolve that they have their own people for that, and you just kind of stay in your lane? Or do you ever get interested in what they're cooking up on the other side of the room? How's that go?
No, that's a really good question. I do often look over at the other side of the room and think about it a little bit. So I typically stay in my printer lane, though. I would like to learn more about the placement side of things, and I certainly have a lot of knowledge in it, and in my past have been a process technician with it and enjoy debugging that side of the line. But yeah, as I focus more on the printers and I seem to become more entrenched in that, you find yourself working on that more often. And any additional free time, if you can find it, typically goes to other things or more printer related stuff than the placement side of stuff. But yeah, it's to find someone that is that knowledgeable in placement and printers would be, awesome. Pretty rare for sure. I would enjoy doing it, but yeah, unfortunately the time hasn't allowed right now. But I do enjoy when I'm at our customers' facilities and seeing that, like what you guys have and Sean has, and the processes that go into that. And it makes me miss it a little bit for what I used to do, certainly. So
Time.
good question.
That's what it takes, though, right? Because I mean, if
Yeah.
whatever time you spend continuing to excel in your knowledge and experience in your current application of the printing side, if you were to start trying to generate that same level of experience and knowledge with the placements, the only way to spend that time on the placement side would be to not be spending time on the printing side, right? So based on some of the conversations we've had with some industry titans and experts who have done this for a long time, it seems like there's no shortage of opinions on the right way to set up a screen printer. And there's probably, as you've mentioned, no end to the learning, right? So it's not like you have to sacrifice your interest or desire to learn more by sticking in the printing side, because there's always going to be, you're developing new platforms within your own printer. Your pastes are constantly changing over time. So the software changes, the hardware changes, the kind of like all the variables involved change over time. So even if you think you know it all now, it's going to change anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, everything's, always evolving and always learning. And that is a good point that you bring up about how different people learn different ways. And I think that in that study that we did recently at Sean's factory, it was really nice to see Elias on the floor and learning how to load feeders and how we program the SPI machine and set tolerances, and what this result on the SPI machine needs to change on the screen printer to make the correct adjustment. And so a lot of that stuff is stuff that, and you would probably attest to this better than anyone, Daniel, is just by doing it, just because you get up and you're there at 6 a.m. every day until 5 o'clock and figuring out how to run different things and making it work. Right. So I think that's how I was able to learn everything, and with the mounters as well. So when I go into customers and I see their process and I get to train them on a new process with a new machine, they can kind of take it all in stride a little bit better. And that's exciting to see. And when I go back there a year later to do a little bit more training and follow up on some of the maintenance items, yeah, it's really exciting to see how these processes played out and the amount of less rework they have and the level of things that they're working on now because they have time freed up and because they're printing boards, the details a lot finer. So those are the really, really rewarding things. And also the stuff you miss, you don't get to see with the placement side too. So I start to drift over to the placement machine a little bit and gotta take a few steps back in my box.
Sure. Sean, I can see the gears in your head spinning. I know you got a good one on deck here. Let's hear it.
I have actually at least 2 questions. We recently did an X-ray of an Apple Watch, and what we noticed on it was it's really visual. You really can't really listen to it, but there was really no clearance for printing, even placement on there. If you ask me, everything was so tight. Yeah. And, Elias brought up the fact that some companies will actually just flux print onto the board because there's just no room for the solder paste on there. Have you ever seen anybody ever do that on a board?
I have. I'm not incredibly familiar with the process, but there was I think it's okay to talk about. There was a customer, they're not in, they're not in business anymore. The name of it though was Rohini, and they made micro LEDs. So they were incredibly small, and their process involved 2 screen printers, if I recall correctly, and the first printer put only flux down on it, and then the other printer would come in and deposit paste, I believe. I'm not sure how the process went down, but
they were big screens too.
Yes, they were massive. Yeah, they were the longboard printers we had. So I remember seeing the little dies that they were placing and was blown away by the process and what they were doing at the time and what it was going in. So don't have a ton of experience with it, but that's one of the best parts about the job is that I get to go over and see some of these other processes and what people are doing even with our equipment that I'm not familiar with. So
that makes me curious. Does the equipment, the placement equipment in your line have flux dipping capabilities?
It's got flux jet. You can add a flux jet to it.
To the placement
Yeah,
machine?
to the Neo 2.
I believe so.
Jet dispense. There's also a special feeder that you can get that it's kind of like a collection tray, it look like, and it'll pick up the part, actually dip it in there, and then place it on the board.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what you were asking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got both.
Yeah, I have seen
that.
Yeah,
so that was kind of the precursor to printing flux. Well, at least maybe not a precursor, but some people use that, right? So they can just dip the part into flux and then place it, but it's obviously
so would
not
you
as
do that
fast.
if you only need it at that one local spot maybe and not across the whole board?
Seems like a logical application, yeah, or only just a few components, or you didn't want to have to go through the dual print process. You would just do it at the placement platform. But obviously it's going to be slower, right?
Yeah.
I broke Daniel's mind.
Well, because it was just wild to me when I learned about it literally 2 weeks ago. Because my whole life the 5 years of printing experience I have, it was paste, right? And all of a sudden they're like, hey, they just put the flux because there's already solder on the actual component itself, and I'm like, that's insane, It just blew my mind. And then the next,
That's probably how I felt when we learned about the fluxless solder.
yeah,
I was like,
I still never
what?
got to see that. I was curious to see. I know you said it looked like didn't look like solder paste, right?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Looking. Maybe we can hit up Shantanu for a picture, and producer Paul can cut it in right here.
The second question I have, and I'm trying not to make this. I was trying to think how can I say this without being because we try to be brand agnostic on this platform, right? But Europlacer is the only Speedprint's the only one I have experience with, right? And I run the Speedprint 700 series, right, Matt?
Yeah, the 700.
Which is like
yep.
it's like equivalent to like 4 generations old at this point, right?
Yeah, it's yeah, there's been a few
Because it was
generations since,
700,
I would say, different
710,
models.
720, and then the P7, right? So it's
The history's pretty rich. There's yeah, there's actually 200, 210s, 700, 710s. I think there's a 880, and then of course the P7 now. So there are several different models with different drive systems and yeah, different features and form factors even too.
on
So
the 700, right? I was able to
yeah,
successfully print a couple thousand micro LEDs, and it was 601005 pads, all throughout this board, right? It was huge boards, and
What kind of stencil were you
that
using
was a
for
metal
that?
etch provided stencil. Thank you for that. Because we try to be brand agnostic on this platform, right? And I will say this: he was able to give me like the most. He's like 2.3 mil stencil is what you want to do for this, and I was like, "What are you talking?" And he's like, "No, trust me on this," and it printed and it soldered perfectly, and I was kind of amazed by that. But anyways, brand agnostic. So, you know, there's got to be, I mean, you're talking about 01005 pads, right? And thousands of them that my 4-generation old printer printed successfully.
yeah.
What is the jump between like a P7 nowadays, right? When it was already doing that back in the day, like what is the new features out there that are just make it even better where you can have that, achieve these high because 01005s are small, that to be able to print that, or smaller than that, what is the difference
Solid
about the
assessment.
P7?
No, that's the
01005s are small, people. That's
yeah, that's the
good
truth. You heard it
PSA.
here first.
Yep.
Sean. Yeah, it's true. So your screen printer is a testament, and you can print accurately and repeatable with it, absolutely. And the same as our new P7 printer. And I would say, I guess I shouldn't say, but I would say you guys take care of your equipment and you maintain it, and that goes a long ways to keeping the machine in tip-top shape. So you have good components, you replace them when they're worn out, and that type of continuously having the right work performed on it at the right intervals will keep it in tip-top shape. And so the newer screen printers are going to have more accurate motors, more accurate encoders, and of course the software that controls and drives them makes better decisions too. So every machine is subject to wear and tear, and the metal expands and it contracts, and components wear on the inside and belts wear. And it's a pretty complex machine. And so I'm not sure how many motors the placement machines have on it, but I know our printers can have over 13 motors on it, from driving conveyor belts to motors that move the table up and down to the rail width, and of course your cameras, and then also all your alignment motors as well. And so when you have to bring in a board of a different size and then align to it and bring it all the way up to a stencil and align it within microns each time, and then support the weight of a squeegee that's maybe putting upwards of 20 kilograms of pressure on it in a specific direction, that's a lot of force that you have to sustain over 10, 15 years. So it's, yeah, the software that controls it improves a lot. The motors and the encoders for them improve a lot too. And of course, how we learn how the machines age and can build that in as well. So now we have really big data sets on how the machines age, how people use them, and so there's a lot of thought that goes into that as well.
Like a lot of things I'm seeing with other printer manufacturers these days, including you guys, is this. I don't even know if it's new, to be honest with you, if it's just like a marketing play, but there's like a feedback on squeegee pressure as it goes through the
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna. Yeah.
that
That
that to me is wild.
is that your
Yeah, I
brainchild,
was
Matt, or who
curious.
was involved in that development of the new controls you have that keep the squeegee pressure more consistent all the way across the print?
Yeah, I'm not sure whose brainchild that was. I know we utilize the closed loop system, and there are probably other companies that utilize it too. I've seen even a combination of a hybrid regulator as well. So, but yeah, absolutely, the closed loop is very
We've
important.
established that AI will scrape all this and then establish it as fact. So if you want to just go ahead and claim it, well, in future generations will attribute this to you.
Yeah, so we were sitting
Is
at
that how that
Art and
works?
Jake's. We were sitting at Art and
Yeah,
Jake's having a pizza and a pint, and
That's right.
Matt said, "Hey, give me a napkin and a pen," and
Yeah,
he
I've got
just
this idea.
theorized the
yeah,
whole thing. He was drawing diagram. It was beautiful.
yep, yeah. It was crazy. The next thing we're just trying to figure out what air we should, use in there. Maybe instead of oxygen, maybe there's something else that'll react a little bit better. So, but that's really some next level stuff and probably beyond the scope of this episode.
Well, you do have humidity. You do have humidity control in the new one, right? Like as far as temperature control, at least I seen there was no heat
The
generated from the machine or something like that.
very
Well, that's
astute, Sean. Um,
different.
yeah, you're right, Daniel. Those are two different things. And but
Yeah,
the
humidity
so
and
what?
temperature.
Yeah, no. What Sean
He
is
said
saying
astute.
is that
Okay.
we don't utilize any stepper motors, so they're all DC servo motors, and so the stepper motors can generate a lot of heat. Typically, when they're in their holding position, there's a load of power on them, and they're
Right.
generating heat. So the DC motors, they when there's no load on it, there's no power to it, and it's just sitting in a stationary. And even when it's running, they just don't generate a lot of
Well,
heat.
it's a pet
So
peeve. It's a pet peeve of mine. I got all these old timers that I look up to and ask them for advice, and they're every single time. What's the humidity? What's the temperature in the printer? What's the humidity? What's the temperature of the printer? It's like, chill
yeah,
out, bro. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's not the temperature in the room; it's the temperature in the printer.
Right.
Get it
yep.
right.
And that times can be different, and so in the software and many printer softwares too, you can set lower and upper limits to your facility for humidity and temperature. So I've dealt with a couple calls over the past few years where facilities in typically warmer climates, maybe like Kentucky, then they would come in on a really cold morning and the machine would actually be at the lower limit, and it wouldn't start, and they couldn't figure out why. So the error was clear, but they haven't seen it before and didn't know where to change it. So yeah, we had to go in and say, nope, tell it it's okay to start at 55 degrees and run.
Wow, that's cold.
Yeah, some of those are just yeah.
That's a good segue into what my question was going to be. So obviously you spend a ton of time in the field, right? You're in a lot of different facilities, a lot of
Yeah.
customer sites. A lot of times I'm sure it's just for installs or PMs and things like that, but you're probably also the guy that gets the phone call when something ain't going right. So
Yeah.
my question for you is, what are some of the most bizarre or crazy or obscure things that you've gotten to as the root cause of a failure or an issue at the screen printer?
Yeah, I sometimes really enjoy those moments where it's really rewarding, right? When you get to go somewhere and figure something out. So a lot of the calls are fairly routine in their nature, and but sometimes you do go out there and you have a problem and you are helping the customer over the phone and it's repeatable, and you're like, oh man, something actually is going on here. It's not acting right. Yeah, so you pack up your toolbox, you fly down and get out there and start doing the same diagnosing that you had the customer do just a little bit ago, and you say, all right, I guess that he was right, huh? So and confirm it yet again. Yeah, and then you get to dig a little bit deeper into it. And so I've found all sorts of stuff. You know, some of the more obscure ones have been like when someone's installing a wire maybe, and then a connector, say, and then in that, maybe in that shell, in the connector itself, one of the small wires, maybe there was a solder ball in between them, or when someone put the casing on, the wire got pinched, and it was flagging in the IO erratically. But very, very small things that you would find, right? So sometimes you're getting your multimeter out and you know, looking for stuff to flash and checking for continuity across a lot of wires while stuff's in motion. Yeah, and those are the, you know, those to me are the fun ones for sure.
I
So
have a story
I've
that Matt.
you do?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I'll tell you. You were. So I usually I have like an uncanny knack for calling Matt right before he boards an airplane or while he's on an airplane.
Oh yeah.
It's gotten
Yep.
to the point, I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want anybody else to know how to get a hold of you, but I have another way to get a hold of them. And
You've heard of the bat signal.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
the
so
mat
the bat
signal.
signal.
Matt signal, yeah.
Yeah.
So I get a text at like 9 a.m. The left conveyor won't work. The left conveyor won't work.
That's early for you.
It is early, buddy. And then so, you know, this has happened once or twice before, but when we realized that it was like some wire came loose and we just had to pop it back in, right? It was no big deal. And then it never happened again. And then I get this call that this left conveyor is not working, right? And then I was doing something at home, I forget, and I didn't make it in till like 10:30. They were still having the problem. So I text Matt and I'm like, dude, they're saying the conveyor is not working. You know, he's like, I'm literally about to board the plane and give me a little bit. And, you know, when I'm in the air, maybe I can, you know, send me some pictures and stuff like that. So literally, like he just said, I follow the steps that he's telling me to do, right? So take this out, put this in there, look at this, you know, check this, check that. And I open up the rails, right? Or take the stencil out and I look at like where the pins are. And the operator had forgotten to move the pins out before she changed the job, right? So then the pins were all the way forward to the front and they were preventing that rail from spinning, right? So it's in my experience, it's always something basic like that, right? Like where the operator didn't do something, you know? And then I had a text and was so embarrassing, was like, so, cause he's getting deep into diagnostics, right? He's like, well, let's check this in the IO and then we'll do this and do that, right? I'm like, yeah, so they didn't move the pins before they moved the rail.
You figure most customers would, you know, check the small things
Right,
first
so-
before calling.
Yeah.
Well, that was like one of your
Colin.
steps too. I think it was like step 2 was like, make sure there's nothing obstructing the rail, right? Like
Remove all
yeah,
obstructions.
So it was like,
Yeah.
it was like, and that I texted exactly what he said to my operator, you know, and I mean, they are black pins. I'll give her that. And it's a black rail system, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
Problem was fixed, but you know, for me, like you're talking about,
Yep.
Elias, it was like egg on my face, you know, and
Well, this is a really good example too of, so of course we always want to help our customers out, and I always tell everyone when I'm doing an installation or anything, I'd say, hey, you know, we design the product and I tell you how to use it, but if you use it in a different way or you think that it could be better or there's less steps to get to a certain menu, then absolutely let me know, and that's how we improve our products too. And so one of the, just like that instance came up with you, it had happened with another company not long before that as well, and it helped us develop a sensor, and as far as I know, we're the first company to do that, but a rail collision sensor.
Good.
And essentially, well, yeah, when the rail's moving inward, it shoots a beam across, and if it you know, sees a obstruction, then it will alert the operator to remove it and continue on. So yeah, it prevents crush tooling and that, you know, on that downtime.
how much money do I
so
get
yeah.
on the patent on that? Because basically, without me, that would not exist, right? So,
Yeah, you were not the customer that I was referring to. It was a different, but I see your value.
thank you,
And
thank you. I know you do.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
you do. That's for sure.
I see it, man.
I know you do.
I see
I
it
can
for
tell by
sure.
the Tiger tickets you got us, dude. That was awesome
Yeah.
when you were in town.
Those are good seats.
That was top notch, man. So that was a good time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it really is nice to close that loop though. And if it happens at one customer, it'll happen at another one. So, and if that
100%.
allows us to put in a sensor, and then and you dealt with it once, Sean, and then now if another customer never has to deal with it again, then we're doing our job,
Well,
right? Those are the small advances.
I don't ever freak out about stuff like that because I like to put it in context of like, all right, that same operator has loaded hundreds, if not thousands of jobs, right? And has always moved
Yeah.
in. So like in percentage wise, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody has a day where they forget to do, it's not.
Oh yeah.
So I don't ever stress about that type of stuff, like it's gonna happen, and then we just need to update our work instructions, right? So that's added in there, and then that's part of the steps that they have to follow every single time they change a job out or go something like that, right? Who knows? Probably me the night before. Hey, you got to get to this in the morning. It's got to run their mouth, right? So there's probably added stress or something, but I don't ever freak out about that.
Yeah, and you probably even relented and let her look you in the eyes again now, right? I mean, you're a nice guy.
After I shaved her head, that's just a rule I have. If you mess up, I cut your hair.
I'm sure that you guys are familiar with this too, but when you know a product so well, and I have been working on our printers a long time, and I know it down to most nuts and bolts and wires, but it really is nice to be able to break something down to its smaller process. And I think that when you really start understanding the different things in SMT and really anything in life, it starts to apply, and that's the same thing. You just break it down into its smallest processes. How does the board come in? How does it clamp? How does it fit on the rails? Is there tooling support underneath of it?
I can attest to it though.
Yeah.
Like, there's been plenty of times where I thought I knew enough about it to tell you what an error code meant. Like, no. You'd be like, well, I think it has something to do with this. And I'm like, no, Matt, you don't understand. This is what it's telling me on the screen, and you're like, yeah, I got it. Like, I think I know what it is, but sure. And you've been very gentle about it and let me espouse whatever dumb theory I had and then get me back on track. And there's been a few times, like one of the times I was trying to get a universal carrier set up and the board was way offset and the carrier, how he had it set up. And so to get the board centered up would keep part of the universal carrier underneath the rails. And it wasn't able to calibrate because it looked different at that height, but it would look okay at one corner because it was okay where it was wedged under that corner. But at the other end where it had skewed it all funky, it was giving this weird error and I couldn't make sense of it. And you couldn't see what was going on, but you knew based off of what the error was, you couldn't say the specifics, but you knew what had to be causing that error. So once I started looking a lot closer, it's like, oh, okay. And I only knew to look in the area because of your advice. So you can definitely, those codes might seem like just gibberish to some people or whatever, but it does tell the right person the information they need.
Yeah, absolutely. And it even goes into a deeper level when you start to get, when I have to interface with our software R&D team, and then they tell me, oh, the signal's been seen by here, but first it goes to this card and then it goes over here and then it gets compared to this value. And if it's greater or less than, then the cylinder goes down. But if it's more, then the cylinder stays up. So it's it's just so much that goes into it for the end result to align, like you said, Sean, these 01005s, and to do it thousands of times over 15 years after you've had the machine. It's incredible. It never ceases to amaze me what we do. How it seems very, very routine.
It almost makes me worried that it's like, everybody's got those garage fridges, right? And they last forever. But you get the new, I don't want to say it, that everyone knows the brand, right? And they get it, and then a couple years later, the ice is not working, or it's shooting water out everywhere, right? Or it fails, and it's like, do I have a garage fridge? You know what I'm saying? Do I have one of the solid? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's
built like a tank.
Yeah, dude.
It's a pretty good analogy,
right?
There.
It's
that is spot on. That old washer. They don't make them like they used to. No,
thank you for letting me espouse on that.
No, it's a really good analogy, but no, absolutely. The printers that come out, now are great quality as well.
Paul,
So
he earned producer Paul. Make sure you put a gold star over him for his good word
I don't even know if I
choice.
used it right. I just threw it out there. It's like a Spanish version of spouse.
You said it with enough conviction, so you pulled
I
it
believed
off.
it.
Yeah.
Matt, these guys don't. I mean, I don't know. I guess we're getting way too off topic, but they
No,
use
this is
words
where
we don't use here.
Reward the people
We
for
don't
listening
use
this
those
long.
words in
Go.
Michigan, man. I don't. I've never been anyone I know of that has ever used the word espouse in a conversation. Matt, have you in Michigan? Have you ever heard anyone ever say that?
They'd kick your ass for that at Roselli's.
Probably.
Yeah. No, I don't think I've heard anyone specifically use that around here.
Yeah.
But maybe that's more the crowd I hang out with, the caliber of people.
The only thing these guys are
maybe-
good at is Wheel of Fortune. That's it. The rest, you need something done.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, Sean.
Yeah, but I'm golden. Then I'll tell you what.
Safe. Safe.
No worries there, huh? Okay.
There's the magic clip to sell the episode.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Oh boy. Well,
Hold on, I do
I think,
have one question. One more question.
Perfect.
It's about and I know Elias might not like this one, right? But jet print,
Okay, I like it
jet
more.
printing, right? Like it's got to be eventually. I mean, I don't know how they get to the speed that you can do. And the one I seen one, man, and it was absolutely terrible. I hate to say it. I'm not gonna say which one it was, but dude, the print was so bad. The deposits, it was so bad. And I don't know if that was indicative of what the normal results were, right? But it was.
who are you?
For our new Patreon subscribers, you will get the info. You will get the name of the company.
No, I ain't gonna
That's a
trash
good way
nobody.
to
I ain't gonna trash nobody because they got different nozzles and they had the high speed nozzle on it. Maybe the more accurate nozzle would dispense better. I don't know, but what I seen, I was not with the press. But I mean, what's your thoughts on that, right? Like, so you're obsessed with touching stencils to boards. Like, literally every time he comes to my facility, raising it up, he's tapping.
I can't keep my hands off of it.
Right?
Yeah. I'm like, why have we not built a sensor that taps it for me?
But where do you see
Seriously.
jet printing in the future, and do you ever see it replacing stencils, or do you think stencils always have a spot in our industry?
Yeah, I think that I enjoy printing of all formats. So of course I work mostly on screen printers, but I've also have done stints at companies where we jetted different materials too. So onto different substrates, not onto circuit boards. So yeah,
And you guys
absolutely.
have your ADU, right? So you get a little
Yeah.
of both worlds.
Yeah, we do. That's a different form of dispensing using an auger and positive displacement, a little Archimedes drive to deposit material too. So, and that goes into the whole thing is that there's absolutely a place for all of these on here. And I know there's some other cool technology coming out in paste deposits as well. So, I am not as familiar with some of the jetting as say Daniel is, having a machine in his shop and getting to wake up and use it and see the limitations and the cost behind it and that sort of thing. So I'd have to imagine that absolutely there's applications for it where it's awesome for prototyping and small batches and difficult in reworking applications or supplemental to a screen printer. And I'm sure the technology will continue to advance and the speed will continue to go up and the throughput, and I don't know how much money people are going to need to invest or to throw at it, until it reaches that point and when it will make sense or, the cost benefit of it.
I just have such a hard time seeing the repeatability ever even being able to be. I mean, with that type of dispensing, how could it ever be as consistent or repeatable as a dialed in screen printing process? I mean,
yeah,
and for sure speed too. Like, right? I mean, you see these things fly around. The jet printing's certainly gotten a hell of a lot faster.
a million dots
can't-
per hour on some.
Jesus.
Yeah, but you can't beat a squeegee stroke, right? But I Matt said it in his comments there as an augment or in supplemental to the screen printing process. I think that's where there's really a lot of value. I mean, I think if I was going to set up my perfect SMT line, I would have a screen printer that went into a jet printer, because there are certain cases where you'd really like to have that. For example, Sean, you had that challenge the other day where those pads were sitting 50 microns underneath the surface of the solder mask, and it doesn't lend itself to a good screen printing process. Imagine if you had a precision nozzle on a jet printer and you could just go and paste into that cavity, right, with the jet printer. So
sure. If I had
there are any number of
$500,000 to set up the line that he's talking about, right? You just get a screen printer and a jet printer, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
have both, bro.
But then it asks questions too. Okay, well, what about putting a jetter in a screen printer? So we have obviously a dispense, in there, but that brings up other issues too. So of course you're still back at the cycle time thing. Even if you can screen it, then you still are holding a board in there to jet to it, and it's a very specialized machine with very different control systems on it that get there, and requires a lot of different hardware. So, and that's,
do you
and
use
there are,
the same paste, the same type of paste as far as viscosity and everything in your dispenser as you do on top of the stencil?
yeah, we always try to, typically there'll be a dispense grade paste, typically a type 5 or type 6. You can use a type 4 too, but yeah, you'd want to match it to what you're screening if that's what you're doing. Absolutely.
Elias does make a great point though for like step stencils, like step up, right? And when we were at Kansas City Star, we seen a pretty cool presentation about step stencils, how they affect the printing of the components around it, right? And how close a component could get before it started affecting that.
What's your keep out
Right?
before?
Yeah, and you could kind of eliminate that, or maybe add a little bit extra to those areas that are close to it with that jet. So I think, like you said, Elise, almost like a finishing touch, right? And then you don't have to have it go crazy speed because it's just already printed, right? And we're just adding a couple dots here and there. I think
After Elias gets his spot on the board for SMTA, we don't have to keep saying he has good ideas, right? That's just
you guys
temporary.
are doing a great job, though. Thank you.
he's gonna ban jet
Appreciate
printing
that.
as his first.
Because
the
I'll
first
have that
directive.
kind of massive authority.
400% tariff on all jet printer.
Yep. It just can't compete with stencils, man. Never going to be able to.
I don't think it will, honestly.
Always
Well,
supplemental.
I look at it
there's
from like the circuit board manufacturing side. So they have inkjet printers for solder mask and silkscreen now, right? And then it's kind of nice because it actually just sprays and cures right then and there. Whereas in the mass quantities that you need to do, it's just basically a big squeegee stroke, and then it tacks right in this big oven, and then you expose it and develop it, right? And it's just all conveyorized, so it's just nonstop. You can get it down to like every 30 seconds to every 2 minutes, maybe max, depending if it's like black solder mask. A panel's coming out, right? But with inkjet, it's so slow, right? It's just so slow compared to that. You'll never run that volume, the same amount of volume, same amount of time. But the footprint, right? So much smaller. You're looking at one machine versus 6, right? Just totally different.
Yeah, that's what Matt came on here to talk about. He's the inkjet solder mask expert.
Well, it's the same principle.
It's
the same principle.
And if money starts to become unlimited, or you really have a facility that's going to operate, nonstop or 24/7, I go into some of our customers and they have 12 placement machines in one line. And so they can take these massive densely populated boards and bring them down to nothing, when the line's fully loaded up, and then the screen printer becomes the gate. So then you start wondering, would it be better if you have 4 jetters, that each work on a different part of the board? Would, versus screening one and having to clean, and
I have to wait an entire day to get a stencil all the way from California,
Yeah.
Like it might not, if I ordered it today, I might not get it till tomorrow,
and you still don't know if it's going to be correct.
I know I
Right.
hogged up a lot of questions, but this is honestly my last one because I've always been curious about it. It's longboard printing, right? It fascinates me, not from the placement side of it. It fascinates me from the printing side of it and the reflow side of it, right? Because to get a reflow on a 4-foot long board, to have like as
Yeah.
minimal voiding, right?
Sure, for placement, what's it matter what the size of the board? It's just who cares, right? But
Clamp it a couple
for
times.
printing,
But printing
and
that
reflow,
that far,
yeah.
right? Like it's, you know,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what's the biggest printer that you've installed and seen a board ran or whatever through it?
Yeah, some of the largest printer that we've had to install was 1550 millimeters by 24 inches. So it's pretty
Why
big.
did you do that?
Because he's from Europe.
Why did
You just
Oh,
said
oh, and
you just
inches
said
and
one dimension in
like
millimeters on the other one in
I- the-
inches. I mean, that, that's-
traditionally they give the the wide dimension in inches, and then I don't know why, but yeah, so 61 inches by 24 inches, but
okay.
yeah,
So
so about 5 feet by 24 inches. So it's a big
feet?
the stencils are as tall as me, and then
Elias,
you
how
can
do you
imagine
cut
when you
that?
have
So there are a couple purpose-built laser platforms for those kind of large formats. The way that we have to cut it is our laser system has a removable back panel for these large format stencils,
nice. Okay.
and we actually load it in. We cut half of the image with a couple of alignment fiducials, then spin it around and register back to those alignment fiducials and cut the other half.
That's cool.
So yeah, I side because they're a bit of a bit of a
pain.
chore. Yeah. But there are more laser manufacturers that are coming out with kind of long board specific stencils. And they're funny looking. Like we run G6080s, and if you look at, they have a new model which is 6080s for 600 by 800, right? That's the cutting area. They have a new model, and I won't remember the designation. It's like 120, 144 or something. But from the front, it looks like a normal 6080, and then you look at the side of it, and it's like double the length. So I call it the 6080 limo.
So
they're big, man. The stencil is as tall as me, and then
Are
you
they-
asked a question about the reflow.
yeah,
And I remember before I knew anything at that first company I talked about that I worked at,
they run
was
some big ones
very-
through
The
there.
soak must be crazy on
Yeah,
a board that's 6 feet long. Like,
I was very inexperienced in the ovens. You need a long oven because a 4-foot board's going to be in 3 or 4 zones at one time, right?
at the same time.
So
yeah.
it wasn't supported at the end of the line. So the board that was out, a quarter of the board was out, and it was cool and solid. But then the other part of the board was
It's
still
still
liquid.
it's still reflowing.
So of course I go over there. I can speed up this process. I rip the board out. It's still liquidous,
no.
half of it.
Oh,
all the solder and all the diodes and everything fly off. Yeah. Oh yeah. It got molten solder everywhere. And I was like, all right, so I
Wow.
guess we do need to wait for them to come out fully and that. But there's lots of challenges.
That place runs some big boards through there, dude. Big boards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
A lot of 4-footers for sure is like standard for them almost, you know.
What runs on that size that isn't an LED board? All I've ever heard of that size are just massive LED panels. What else is there?
Yeah, massive LED panels, and not necessarily as wide, but also very, very big assemblies are modems, like the 5G modems, and that provide like the telecom, the back structure for it, the backhaul stuff. And then also I've seen some really big. They're and like the test fixtures for some companies that test high speed devices. Those are massive circuit boards as well with really, really big power planes. And then of course there's actually some really big flex circuits.
A line like that's getting custom developed for one product, essentially. Like you develop your entire line around the production of one item.
Yeah, and then maybe a couple variations of it, but yeah, 6 or 8 products that go down there. Yep. Yeah, and imagine every conveyor is a 6-foot conveyor in with accumulators, really big accumulators for them. So there's yeah, the lines can be massive that go down, and then some of them will have it where it flips the board itself and then doubles it again. So it's yeah, it's pretty interesting when you get into it for sure.
Elias wants to add a jetter after that one too, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, but it brings up an interesting thought because it's just I guess we're an industry of extremes, right? In one camp, things are getting smaller and smaller, and you've got boards the size of a pin a pinhead, and then in the other end you're talking about 4 and 5 foot stencils. So definitely an industry of extremes.
Imagine my surprise when I went to a customer a couple weeks ago where I recently installed the largest printer we have, and they wanted to print the smallest spec board on it. So the EP 1550, and they wanted to print a panel 55 millimeters by 55 millimeters.
I thought it was
And I said,
50-50.
It's I think it's on that one. It's 55. I think it's 45 on the P7, but on the EP 1550, I think it shrinks a little bit. And the biggest reason is because the spacing between some of the internal conveyors needs to be a little bit bigger for the larger PCB, and then when you bring it into the small one, it can not transport right. So it just makes it a little bit difficult. But yeah, it's funny when you see this 5 foot table.
Did you laugh?
I smiled and I helped them print the best board we can.
Did they do a 5 foot stencil
yeah,
on that little 55?
No, you can get a 29 by 29 frame in there.
Still.
But the table's still 5 feet by 2 feet, and it's funny seeing this tiny table, this massive table line to a tiny stencil.
So does that mean you have squeegee blades that are that long? Like, obviously,
those printers will traditionally print in the X direction, left to right. So you do not need a squeegee that's 5 feet long. You can get by with one that's the depth of the board instead of the width.
It's like getting a Lamborghini out to drive down your driveway to check the mail.
How do you add paste to that sideways?
You would do it the same way. It's just oriented left to right, the squeegee blade. And the cleaning would be left to right as well.
No, but instead of going this way, it goes this way. So where do you put the paste? I don't understand.
So then the machine, the front side basically is going to be rotated from what I look at normally then.
Everything's the same except it prints left to right. If you just take your squeegees and just rotate them 90, and then it just prints left to right or right to left.
He's having a moment.
No, we can't end this episode until he understands what you're saying.
Well, didn't you say it's 5 foot by what?
By 2 feet. And
all right, so for everyone who joined us,
no, because I was picturing 5 by 4 foot for some reason. I'm like, man, that's a long reach, all 4 feet across.
Yeah, that'd be
Well, this has been.
Thank you for letting me respond on that.
Okay, so we would be remiss not to mention. So we would be remiss not to mention Matt's previous appearance on the Decode. It was in an unofficial capacity, but we had some kind of screen printer based argument that came up, and Sean goes, "Hold on, let me call somebody." And it was completely unscripted, completely unplanned. And sure enough, Argy answers the phone and drop the dime of knowledge. So thank you for that. Matt, where can people find you? How can people get in touch with you if you want them to? We'll give you a little chance to plug here. We appreciate your time. So tell us a little bit about Matt Argyris and Europlacer and how both can be contacted.
Yeah, well, thank you guys very much again for having me on here. So you guys, it's awesome what you guys do for the industry, and of course, professionally and personally too. So very, very fun and glad to know you guys. You can reach me out on LinkedIn, and of course, I work for Europlacer. You can find us at europlacer.com. Yeah, if you want to know any more, reach out to us on there. And glad to talk anything and everything screen printing, and just say hey for sure. always down for a
He's
good
one
time.
of the good dudes in the industry for sure.
No doubt.
We've had some good times, and I really appreciate all the insight that you've given us on and off the air. So thank you for joining us, Matt.
Thank you,
and
guys.
Thank you to the
Show
listeners
of hands
who
to
have.
who's hung out at his house.
Thank you for
Yeah.
espousing with
Guys.
us tonight, Matt.
Guys, who else? Oh,
Just
sorry.
you, man. Sean was going to crash on the couch, but he never showed up.
I did. You weren't
Yeah,
home.
that's right.
That's
If
creepy.
you've stuck with us this long, thank you for tuning in. Please do like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow
Vote
us.
for Elias for the board of directors for the SMTA.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. How nice
I
of you.
figured
I
if
forgot I
one
was running.
interruption, you suddenly it's like, hey, interruptions are fine. They're okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, thanks for tuning into the Decode
Come to
Podcast.
SMTAI.